All right, guys, welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast. And today we're going to update kind of or move to the next level, but we're going to also go back and talk a little bit about rub trees and give you guys a little more information on how we've done what we've done, what we've seen happen. But we really want to thank several people, but mainly Ike from Michigan, because Ike from Central Michigan is not only did he write in like we've asked you guys to do and tell us, hey, would you guys do a podcast? But he also left us a 5-star review. So, and it's really made a big difference. We have moved the Raised Hunting Podcast into the top 50 of outdoor podcasts.
You guys have.
Thank
you. That's freaking epic.
So with that, I just want to say thank you guys again. Send us the questions that you have, the things that you want us to cover. If we can, we will. I know I got another one yesterday. I remember Austin sent in one asking us to talk about farms. Another one that came in, someone asked, and I don't remember the name.
We could do a whole podcast on all the ones. We're going to get
No,
to them
but I want to talk about.
Yeah, so if you guys hear us say that, put them in the roster, that means we have a sheet that we're putting them on. So we're going to get to your topic at some point.
But someone asked specifically about CRP and hunting CRP. To be quite honest, we don't do it a lot. So it would be something that we wouldn't be able to cover. We'll get someone in here that does it more. You know, we do some, don't get me wrong. We got some places that we're hunting CRP.
We're good at burning it.
Good at burning it, but at the same time, and hunting.
It depends on how you qualify good. Like,
it's all
lighten
gone.
up half the county. Yes, we got the king.
All right.
Is all the
so
CRP
what is the
burnt
one
when I'm
today,
done? All of it
specifically?
is.
Rub post.
Everybody always
trees.
knows that their fences are
Warren,
smoldering. David's been here.
You're going to get him going, all right? We got to keep him on track. You're going to
Okay.
get him going.
So let's start. Who's
Rub
killed a
trees.
deer off of a rub tree?
Oh, that sucks.
Last
I'm
year.
the only one. Oh, dang it.
Yeah. Who put a rub tree in for someone to kill one? I'm the only one.
Easton's
You gotta
rub
take
tree.
credit.
Easton's right reminds me of a cat toy.
Hey.
It's amazing the fact that this thing is still alive, but because like these deer hit, it's like ding, 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 you know.
It's intelligent. Instead of all yours, you know how you got to put them 8 feet deep because they keep falling over? Mine, I put it down 2 feet, and it flexes with them. So
No.
now it goes a wing,
So
wing.
he puts in a toothpick.
It works.
It's
I got
incredible.
big deer
It's
hitting
outstanding.
it.
So one of the first things that we need to talk about is how we do it, because I've had multiple people writing in and saying, what are you doing? And all we're doing is we're either using a set of clamshells or post hole diggers, however you want to call
Your
them.
little one is way nicer.
I have
that thing's expensive as crap.
It's a one-man auger is what
Yeah.
it's called. It's not powered. It's just, and you just twist it and it goes down. The one thing that we need to correct is I was telling people a minimum of 18 inches. And as you can hear all three of us talking about, you got to go 2 feet.
At
That's
least.
not even enough. I don't
Yeah.
think.
Well, for the most part, mine are. What's killing us right now is last year I concreted them in, and this year I was like,
I can't believe
yeah,
that.
and this year I was like, I think I can just go 2 feet deep and not worry about it. Concrete them in. I'm telling you right now, because it's killing us. That how many yours has been knocked over or broken? You had one
No,
that
the
got
only one
snapped.
All of mine. They've
Right.
knocked all mine out of the
Yeah,
ground.
but that's
They
because
were
they're in
24
too
inches.
well. I think.
No, not mine.
No, mine. That I've had my same one snapped twice in half now. So in my opinion, as much as we make fun of the little skinnier one, they're all still hitting it and they're all using it consistently, but it flexes with them so it doesn't snap. This other one, I put it back in and it snaps
All I
over.
can think of doing now is a video next year where we're taking a concrete truck, and
Just
They can make fun all they want. Carry a
Dad's got a
bag of Quikrete.
Oh, crap.
And you don't have to carry water with you necessarily. You can just dump the Quikrete in there dry and let the moisture from the ground. The issue we're having is or at least on mine, I can't speak for these guys. When I put my rub trees in this year, it was dry and it stayed dry. And so we had no moisture to help that harden and make them stick a little better.
I dumped a gallon of water in them and it hardens it up.
Well, I
Well,
think we should talk a little bit too, though,
you need
about
more than a
the
gallon,
purpose of them and what we've learned. 'Cause
Absolutely.
Last year the very first year we used them?
No, I've been doing this the third.
Okay. So I think, we've learned, at least I now believe that I've learned more about rub trees this year than in really the last 2 years. The type of tree that we're using is a white pine.
White pine.
And then
Eastern
I did
white
put out
pine.
what was
Eastern
that?
white pine.
Yep.
But the other one that you could use that will work just as well, and I believe that with all my heart, even though I haven't put one in, because did go look at them, and I just didn't need them, and that's a Scotch pine.
The other one, they started hitting was it a white
You had a birch.
Yes, and then they're at our North Farm. You know the tree that was knocked over? That's a white birch, I think.
Yeah.
And they've destroyed it. Like the branches
Right.
they've been making these huge rubs on it, just ripping it up.
Well, and to qualify kind of why we believe soft tree, that's what I think is primarily. You know what? I think one is soft, two is sap, and
Well,
it's,
isn't
cedar?
a cedar, isn't that a hardwood?
It is a pretty good. I don't know if it's classified as a hardwood, but we get a lot of people asking, can they just go buy something at the store and drop it in? And they work to an extent. They just don't work. It doesn't seem like as well as the white pine does.
I have a cedar that is shredded, but I didn't do it. It's just a natural tree that's
Right.
shredded.
I wonder
I
what
have different
those fence
theories on
posts are
that.
that you see that get ripped up. Because I've had a couple people send in pictures of just a fence post. It's just shredded.
Yeah, I talked to a guy. He's gonna be mad at me if he listens to this because I forgot. It was like 3 months ago. That he used just a 4x4. Put it in
Yeah,
the ground.
no, a couple guys are doing that, and so I'm not saying that you can't try some other trees. I'm just telling you that the one that we've had the best luck with is the white pine or the Scotch pine.
Okay, so let's go to the next question then. What's the advantage of a rub tree? Rub tree,
Put
like
the
I
deer
mean,
where you want it.
but so let's just say a scrape. There's scrapes everywhere. Why can't we just use scrapes? We just talked about that.
In my opinion, they're hitting a rub tree a heck of a lot more consistently than a scrape sometimes.
I
Actually, I was just talking to Joey about this. A signpost rub.
Yeah,
There's a difference between like an actual signpost rub and just some rubs, because they'll hit some other
So
ones.
we better
and-
clarify
Yep.
what that is. And the signpost rub is something that we've discovered. We found this out several years ago. Easton and I have footage of probably one of the first really like light bulb went off when we watched a deer we called the Big 8 come out on the edge of the food plot. And he had just gotten into a huge fight. We could see the fight, but we couldn't see the deer. We could see the CRP flying, and they were going crazy. And out he comes, and he walks over to this tree and just starts waylaying on this tree, which no big deal. But then when I looked through the binoculars, I told Easton, I'm like, look at that tree. They've been wearing on that for a long time. It was kind of
It was
hourglass.
like an hourglass.
And so then he came out, went in the field. 15 minutes later, the buck that he had been fighting with came over and hit that same tree. And that was when we first started and that's probably been 9 years ago, when we were like,
It was that long
okay,
ago already?
yeah, it's
Wow.
like, what's going on here? These deer are picking that tree. And so then I killed a deer off of hunting just their rub trees. And that was a few years ago when I found, same thing, several trees that we're talking about that were hourglass like that. And I set up a ground blind in the timber and shot a deer at 13 yards after he rubbed the tree.
So the thing I think we should talk about with that too, though, is when you find so you hear all these guys, they'll take a picture and they'll, man, I hope I find this deer, right? I hope I find that buck, or I hope I find this one
Of a
that
big
made this
rub,
rub.
or something, yep.
I would tell you that, in my opinion, 97% of the time, that's a whole bunch of different bucks that are hitting that rub. It's not one buck. Now, I would have told you a few years ago, I'd have thought the same exact thing. That's just one buck. You're real close to his bedding area or something, and he's just shredding all this tree. If it's a big tree or a decent sized tree and it's just ripped up like that, I'll bet you it's a whole bunch of bucks, not just one. So I think that's something to keep in mind when that's a great thing for sign, that you know there's a lot of.
I think it's sometimes it could be pretty hard though to tell, because I've watched some bucks just sit there and go and shred a tree like no other, and it looked like a whole bunch of deer have come by and hit it. It's just one.
Yep.
But granted, I think if they're going to spend that much time on it, it's probably going to end up being something where other bucks are coming to it. Because I think it's sometimes it can be pretty easy to tell when you see just like when you are walking through and there's a couple like fingers of trees and stuff, and you get those like little tiny ones that are just shredded real quick.
And usually there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, there's a couple in the line or something. There's probably just one buck that's fired up or something, or maybe a couple that came through and
Or he
shredded it.
or
They're not-
someone was fighting and that was his response to them or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one myth that we need, and I dispelled that myth a long time ago. I quit thinking that if I found a huge rub, and I still like finding them, they're just cool. When you find that, 12, 14-inch diameter tree that's huge, you're like, oh my gosh. But I watched a 100-inch deer rub a telephone pole.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so big deer, it isn't always a big deer rubbing a big tree,
Yep.
so it kind of blew that whole theory out of the water. Well, the size tree that we typically are, or at least I typically am using, that I'm getting the best response with our rub trees, is somewhere in that 6 to 8 inch diameter, because I feel like that's heavy enough that it doesn't break. It stays in the ground well. I have no problem. Spikes are rubbing it. It's not like it's too big or anything like that. And so
I disagree.
Easton likes a smaller tree.
My biggest one is the one that snapped. Like they just hammered it and they snapped it again.
But that one was still only like what, 3 inches or something like
It was
that.
like
that's
it was
the
like
problem.
dad's ones that he's using, and they
Okay.
snapped it multiple times. Granted, it could have been dried out or something, but I just cut it.
I feel like all the ones I saw that I saw you had were smaller than mine. I would say that like in people out there can't see it right now, but Warren's cup here is probably about the size roughly that of the tree that I'm using. That's probably 4 inches in diameter, maybe there.
That is
And then-
way more than that. Tell me a deer base. Think of a deer base. That's like 8 inches.
You do
9
understand
inches.
the difference between diameter
No,
and
that's
circumference?
That's a
Yes, but we're
circumference.
talking
This
about
is this is a cross.
Okay, well, nobody measures trees across.
That's exactly how you measure them.
Yeah.
No, you do not.
Yes, you do.
Oh, okay. We're gonna ask. Well, we'll ask the fans. When you think about a tree, the size of the tree? Are you talking about how much it is around or across?
Okay, we'll clarify this question. When I say there's an 18-inch tree, are you thinking it's 18 inches around the tree, or do you think it's 18 inches? It's an 18-inch tree, like is in
Measured
width,
from one side to the
diameter.
other. That's
Yeah,
well,
no,
the
'cause that is
definition
walking
of
in with a cottonwood.
That is the exact. That's how you measure a tree.
here. We'll pull
I'm
up
just trying to help
diameter.
people understand because
Nick. Pull it up on your phone so that and ask for a diagram. But I promise you that
Not a diameter of or a diagram of diameter, Nick, or
Or a-
circumference. We know what that is. Okay, which one? Which one is the tree? All right.
with Nick's spelling ability, it's probably going to put in
okay.
diaphragm.
So, but anyhow, you asked the question: what's the advantage of a rub tree? I would not have killed the deer that I killed this year. I don't believe without the rub tree. And the difference maker in you said, well, you can just hunt a scrape. Exactly. I went to put in a stand to hunt a scrape. I couldn't. The scrape already existed. It was already in place, and where I had to sit, it was covered. I would have had to cut a
You're
ton of
referring to
limbs.
Brahma? Mm-hmm. But he came to rattling. You don't.
He came to the rattling, but the tree was there to give me a shot.
I would 100% agree with that because after last night with the deer that me and Joey saw, that we were sitting on the rub post that they snapped and I didn't know it, and I got into the stand. We went and sat in the stand and it was snapped over again after I just redug the hole, and we rattled that buck in, and I really do believe that because he whipped around and came to like 40 or 50 yards. I really do believe if he had previously rubbed that tree and it was still there,
Oh, he did.
that
Yeah.
he would have come like right up to it.
Right.
And rubbed it, and that would have been at 20 yards.
So
I
you may have
thi-
still got a shot at Brahma.
Oh,
but
I
probably
think-
not 14 yards, quartered
Exactly.
away, calm,
And
distracted.
Distracted.
Well, we
that
didn't
was
get
my
it-
big thing.
We didn't get a shot at all, so I'm with you on the fact that I do think sometimes it'll give him that extra. I'm coming right here.
Yeah,
now.
and the first place that I started to employ it, there you go, straight across, right? That's diameter.
That's freaking weird. That's the stupidest way to measure. See, Eli's with me. Eli knows what he's talking
That's
about.
because Eli isn't the most intelligent either. So
No, nobody goes measuring trees across. That's retarded.
Okay, so the I think Easton answered it, but I just want to make sure people understand. We're putting in a rub tree because we want that rub tree exactly where we can get a shot.
So I think that'd be the next thing to talk about is one, locations, like where do you put a rub tree, and then two, what is it about? To me, I feel as though like if I was listening to this, I would maybe say, oh, I'll just go put one on a tree that they're rubbing, which I think you can do that as well.
If you can find a stand and put it there, and if it's
And
a
I've-
signpost rub,
But it does seem like if you can find somewhere like in a bottom or in a bedding area or in a field that's kind of a random place to have a rub tree,
well,
they go nuts.
because there's not one there for them to
Right.
do their thing.
I think it's the where it gets their attention the most is obviously like we put all our scents and stuff on it too, but who was the one or somebody told you or maybe you just did it where you go during the summer, the guy's like, I don't even use food anymore because he would take a food plot or something or just an open field and set his camera on a T-post right there, and the deer are curious enough that they come
They
walking
walk up
out, they're
to
like,
it.
what the heck is this? And they walk out to it, and he's got all sorts of pictures without even having to put food out. So I think when you put these rub posts, like you're saying,
he was
I
probably
don't.
putting peanut butter on it or
Yeah,
something.
okay. Yeah, I don't set mine next to another tree within a bunch of other trees. Like if I'm going to put it somewhere, I want it to be like, okay, why is this here, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
And so
Well, I've
intrigues
done
them to come
both.
over in the first place.
I would say my first place to employ one that I thought was going to make a difference was I was tired of deer coming to a food plot. Food plot's too big to shoot all the way across. I needed a way to take the deer. I got him in the food plot, got the deer that I want in the food plot, but he's 60 yards out there chasing does around. I need him to stand 20 yards away. And so that's where I first put one in there, and it worked. I mean, he came right to it, and I let him go.
That's the one at the 80.
It is. And then, but then,
No, that
no.
big 9 that he passed.
Yeah. But where Warren hunted last year, that one's in the timber, and it worked just as well.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
that was also alone. It wasn't like
yes,
there was a bunch of other trees,
I didn't
right?
look for a place where there was a bunch of other rubs. It was, but it's
Yeah, there
like,
wasn't anything that was near as quality for a deer to make a rub on. Now, I think, but that's two different scenarios now that a deer got killed where yours, you intentionally were rattling. And then my deer last year, I did rattle at him, but he didn't come to my rattling. Then 2 bucks started fighting to my left. And then he came and he was going to hit the rub post,
tree, right?
which I think is obviously just a sign of dominance, saying, hey, I'm going to see what's going on here and, let everybody know that I'm here. So
Absolutely.
I think the other thing, too, I think would be interesting to tell people, what do you, like, how many, when we tell them that it's probably more than one deer that are hitting that rub post, is that 2 bucks in a day? Is that a good day? Is it 3?
I've had 4 or 5 on the one.
Well, that white birch, when they started really hitting that one, I had 9 in 3 days before they broke it.
Yeah, I just
9 bucks in 3 days.
I think the
I
most
should
that
go back and look at that because me and you have watched a lot on that. I would be curious to see how many it would be in a little bit.
I bet it's a lot. The other thing I've noticed that all of them did around all of mine, now I'm still good, is that they all started, one, I tried to get it, I made a scrape there for them, but then when they broke my tree, they broke my scrape, but they'd made their own other scrapes around there, so I'm still getting pictures of them still hitting those scrapes because they made those there. I think when it's in their bedding area, they kind of like having something to mess. They just hang around it and they mess with it, and they before they go into the fields or come back, whatever.
Once they scent that tree, once they've all started working on that and started to say, okay, I'm going over top of you, you're going over top of me, now I'm going back over top of you, because Easton and I both have seen it this year. When we have had trees knocked over and they're laying on the ground, we got deer still rubbing the tree on the ground.
I have videos of it too.
Yeah.
Little guys
I
trying
can't
to do
believe that.
Yeah, and so that tells me that scent, it's got to be scent because it's definitely not visual at that point. It was laying on the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're coming back. They can smell it. They're like, I'm marking this thing, and there they are digging in the ground, So there's definitely more of a communication going on there than what – because, I mean, a few years ago I would have flat told someone hunting rubs is a waste of time. Focus on
I
scrapes.
still agree with that. Hunting any rubs is a waste of time. Because you got to hunt the signpost rub or one that they're going to be consistently coming back to,
Right.
or like your rub tree. Because I have so many tree stands that have rubs in front of them, and it's awesome to see. It's great. But like some of the ones I'm thinking of right now, it's like, okay, that's awesome, but he was there that one time.
Yeah, he was just there.
That doesn't mean
when
he's
you
going to be
weren't
coming
there.
back every time. Yeah.
Right.
I do think that rubs, especially reflecting on this year, what we've been in so far, is that during this time period of, when you're really trying to locate deer, I think from October 20th to October 31st, if you're not somewhere where you're finding lots of rubs in a pretty tight area as far as bedding, you're not on the deer, in my opinion. Right now, October 31st through November, 4th, 5th, there's a lot more rubs popping up. So, like, if you're still not finding rubs, you probably need to be moving.
May not be
Well,
on the deer.
that's also, I think finding a natural signpost rub is extremely difficult.
It is,
Wow.
but when you
Thanks,
find them,
Christo.
it can be extremely.
That one that you found a few years ago was unbelievable.
Yeah, it
Is
was.
that the one at the 80?
No, it was
That one at the 80, I feel like if they
It was
would have
a whole
given another
cluster.
year, they would have freaking cut it in half.
Yeah,
I couldn't
This
believe
one
that.
was more than that.
you're talking about the
Wow.
one where it was all the shredding.
East of the
Yep.
main farm, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and where everything was just shredded.
Yeah, like it looked like they had to have killed the tree, I would think.
Yeah.
So this is the first year I've done it because you've been doing it for a while, and I said I've made a large mistake in doing this, being the fact that I didn't put a camera on one. So I have 10 or 15 cameras out, and I put the one that is down in like my target buck's bedroom, and that's the one that me and Warren are talking about that we probably I don't know how many. I am really curious now to take like 5 days and see how many bucks have hit it. Because at nighttime, I have quite a few, but it's a lot during daytime. Mornings and evenings, they're coming and hammering it. And it's almost like a habit for some of them. It's like, okay, I'm walking by this. I need to stop, hit this, and then I'm going to keep going. Then I can continue with the rest of my day. But the other one, if anybody has a strong curiosity bone, put a camera on it or don't put it in. Because I put that one, I can hunt that one, but I wanted to see what was there. And then the other one I put specifically in front of a tree stand so that when we hunted,
It would be there.
it would be there. And I could obviously see that they were hitting it every once in a while. Okay. But now that they've broken it once, they've broken it again. Now, one, I want to know what
How did
deer.
you fix it?
The one day we went in
He
there,
tied a rag to it. He put a stick on there and tied it on both sides and put it.
No, it was like 6 or 8 feet tall or whatever, and I had it 2 feet in the ground, and they snapped it right at the base. So 2 feet, pulled that out. I literally walked in. Joey's climbing up in the stand. I'm down there digging a hole with the post hole diggers. Put it back in. Then we came back 2 days later, snapped again right at the base. So it was literally, by the time I put it back in, it was like this tall.
It looked like
It
a
was
Charlie
not
Brown
tall.
Christmas tree.
Yeah, it was tiny. But
You find yourself yelling at your camera. Like, I had Magnum on there, and he's like,
hit it.
I'm like, no. I'm like, stop. Because he's like leaning on it. And I'm like, you're going to break it, you fat sucker.
You're using the cheater cameras. But anyways,
So?
I'm joking. I have a
Oh,
cell
yeah, you're
cam
right.
now too, so I
Everybody
can't
else.
say much. But the issue I have with it is that I've now had it broken twice. One, I want to know what deer is doing it because I'm like, okay, what deer is this fired up that he just keeps freaking hammering? Or if it's a
He's
bunch
probably
of them.
like backing up and getting a running start
Or
at it.
it's probably like this little forked horn that's doing exactly that.
Yeah.
But the other thing I want to know is, okay, I know they're hitting it. I don't know when they're hitting it. Are they hitting it during daylight? Are they hitting it during nighttime? If they were all hitting it at night, that would be great for me to know because I know, one, they're hitting it. That's where they're at. But I need to move the stand. I got to put it somewhere where I'm going to actually be able to shoot.
Have a camera on that one?
I have it 30 yards away on the scrape that we had made.
No, I did the same. Where I ended up shooting my deer, where I shot Brahma, there, I can't. Where I had to put the rub tree, I would have either had to pick one or the other, the scrape or the rub.
That's exactly what I'm having
And I
to
said,
do.
I'm going to stay on the scrape, even though I put the tree directly in line, hoping that the camera will pick
That's
up that
exactly
far away.
what I did too.
But it's okay.
You should put paint on the tree.
Oh, so you can
And
see it
so
in the
that-
camera?
No, when they start rubbing their heads on it, and you see them like walking around with orange paint on their forehead.
That's
then
smart. So when they come back to the trail camera to do a scrape, you see there, it's like marking turtles. So you can
So a couple of things that we
mark
need
the
to.
really big one. So that one's my pet. You know, don't shoot that one.
So we talked about the diameter, and we've clarified how you get measured diameter of a tree. But the other one is the length of the tree, how tall, because you're talking about it snapping. And I would tell people we're looking for something roughly at least 8 feet, because when you drop 2 feet, that's going to leave 6 foot.
If you guys are finding any other trees that
Doesn't
it works
matter.
on, please let us know.
Yeah.
Because the
Mine was
eastern
like
white
3.5.
pines are not the easiest for us to find. So if you guys see other trees, that'd be great.
Hey, he's saying 8 feet here, okay, and that would be ideal. I'm not gonna lie, but if you can't find what you're looking for, I had like a 5-foot one, and that's what I'm saying. I had 3 feet, 3.5, 4 feet sticking out of the ground, and it worked until it broke, but it worked.
You
all
got
right?
me contemplating the cat toy method. Because
I think it's smarter. I do, because it'll last longer, and
I think
every
it-
big buck's still hitting it.
I think it entertains them, you know, because they have to like chase it all around.
Yeah, this
Well, I'll
this
tell
is
you,
funny because it's the one
so-
place I have the hemp rope on. I have that little. It's a small. It was a limb. Well, they're all limbs, but I mean, it was a limb, not
It's
a
a
tree.
glorified twig.
Yep, and I put that thing in there, and so now when they freaking hit it, it's like, vroom, vroom, but I left one limb off of that so I could make a scrape under it. They don't care about the scrape.
They've wrecked it,
I
though.
put the hemp rope on it, and so now in the videos, like he's talking, when they hit it, the hemp rope's like vroom, 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 back and forth, but they've shredded it 4 feet.
Okay,
Completely.
so if ideal situation is 4 to 8 inch diameter tree, 8 foot tall. One of the things that I would caution you on is two different bucks. Now we left the fork in the tree. Okay, now you can leave the limbs on the top of the tree and do like what Easton's talking about. You can make a scrape underneath it, and that's fine. You can also drill a hole in there and put one through there and make it yourself. I just can't get them to stay. They tear it up. Okay, but the other part of it is I left the fork in 2 of my trees.
What he's talking about is a limb off of his.
Yeah, so the tree goes straight up for say 5 feet, and then at 5 foot mark it splits, and we just left it that way. That's just how the limb that we got was made. I've got 2 different
Thanks,
deer.
God.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, the problem is that I'm going to cut them off from now on.
Why?
Because I've had 2 different deer that have almost hung themselves.
What?
They got their antler caught They're rubbing the tree, and one antler goes down in the fork, and they can't figure out how to get it back.
They can't just pick their head up?
No, they
Boy.
stood there. I got 2 different
Okay,
ones.
this
He
goes
just
to our
gave a whole
testament
bunch
for
of people
podcast.
ideas.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah, for antler. Trust me, I already thought of that. That's how I find sheds. You
Well,
know?
I don't know if they'll be rubbing on
Yeah,
that
I
much during
don't.
that
I
I
don't
don't. I
know.
really don't think that's where Warren was hinting at
No,
with
yeah,
that.
you're
But
gonna
I
have
will
people
say,
putting all
hanging
kinds of
trees.
stuff around
we
there.
just proved our podcast that we already did with our deer intelligent. No, they're stupid. If they can't figure out how to pick their head back
Well,
up,
eventually they
He got
did.
it stuck, I think. Like they
it
he
sounded
did.
like
I
it's
can
like
show it to
wedged
you.
in there where he can't.
He's got one. He just gets
Okay,
one
take it back.
antler.
They're kind of dumb. They're all
He
right.
gets one antler cocked in there, and now it's in there, and then you see both of them do the same thing.
Imagine walking to your tree stand. You're
No,
like, I'm
yeah.
going to shoot a big. Oh,
He's standing
tied,
there.
literally tied up.
Well, because in both instances they freeze.
What do you do?
They're like,
Do you let him go?
What do
Or
I
you
do?
I think you
smoke him?
gotta
know.
let him go, man.
If it was the one I was chasing, I'd probably let him go in like 5-second rule. You know?
Yeah, like he's got to go. You got 5 seconds to run. If you're not gone, you're getting an arrow. That's what
It's
you
like,
do to me. You'd
Okay,
say,
it's fair. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just kidding.
You'd be getting in
I
the
couldn't do
stand
it.
to make it fair, and then I would undo him and be like,
Yeah.
Easton, if you get plowed over, it's fine. I'll shoot
what do
him
you
for
think the
That's
other
probably what I'd
deer
do. I'd
think
be like, make
of
sure
the
he
deer
runs
that's
this
stuck?
way.
They're probably saying how dumb he is. That's my point. Like, what are you doing?
Dude, get your head out of there. Just lift your head. Come on. The doe's got to be like, I'm not doing it with him.
Family podcast, yeah. Very PG.
I'm watching these.
I think we're uploading them as explicit now.
I've
So
watched
we're
these-
good.
I've
We're
watched
called
these
in.
2 deer, and these 2 deer got their head stuck. They both had the same reaction when they realized they could not get their antler back out. They just froze there, like
I guess I'm just gonna take it.
I don't know. But you can see they're applying pressure, and they kept pulling until finally it.
So that's what I
It sounds
didn't
like you this
understand.
morning. Like if I fall, I'm just gonna hang in the stand. I'll just deal with it. For
I was
a
going to
while.
say, I can feel their pain because I was stuck on that stick this morning.
I was gonna kill him.
I
was
had my
so
saddle.
mad at him.
So I'm tagged out. But I cannot just not go hunting. So I went with Easton and Joey this morning, which I wish I had a camera because it would have been cool to film them. Well, as I was getting set up in my saddle, because Easton won't let me sit in the same tree as them, I'm like 30 yards away from them.
You're lucky
and
I'm even letting you come with us in the first place.
I've got my lineman's belt on and everything, right? But so when I got up there, I was sitting on this big limb, while I was putting my platform on. Well, a limb got stuck between my saddle and me, and then there was a doe that showed up, and so I almost fell, which I wouldn't have fallen to the ground, but
You just dangled there.
I was I'd have been hugging the tree like this. And so then I knew he was going to get mad because my only choice was to stand up and break this limb because I was stuck on the limb.
Right.
And so I made this huge snap, and I'm sure that he was probably freaking a leak over there, but
Joey heard
didn't
it.
matter.
I was pissed. All I can hear, I couldn't.
The other
see, it was
option
dark.
was you were going to have me flat.
I
as
would
a
have much
pancake
rather had
against
you
the
flat as a
tree.
pancake and quiet.
No.
That's much better.
Who said I was going to be quiet? I was going to be like, hey, I need some help over here.
All right, so
beached whale?
another. I know a question was, how long does it take for these deer to start hitting the rub trees? And I've heard all of us have probably answered that by accident, just talking about when we went and put them in. But the one that I put in that I killed this deer off of, I literally put in on a Sunday afternoon, 1, 2 o'clock. I was down there in the middle of the day, set it in there, came back. I didn't hunt Monday, didn't have the right wind, came back on Tuesday morning, so at
Well, I
dark
think
30.
The time can depend on that too.
Time
though.
can depend on that, but my point
Meaning
is,
time of year.
yes.
Because I had some hitting it.
Or they shed their velvet.
I'm trying to. Can't remember if I had anybody mid-September. I
I
know
didn't put any
October.
in,
October
so-
1, I had
Mm-hmm.
a few bucks hit them, and then obviously a lot more later on. But this one you put in October
23rd,
23rd. Okay.
because I shot him on the 25th, and I couldn't believe it. I told Nick, was my cameraman, that morning as I'm sitting.
Was that a brand new one?
That was a brand new one.
Okay.
And I'm sitting in the tree, and it's still dark, starting to get daylight, and I'm looking out in the field, and the rub tree's 18 yards away.
And you put buck junkie on it too,
And I
though,
put
right?
buck junkie on it, and I was like all set to go. And I really didn't think that anyone will have been there. I really didn't believe that it was just too fast. And I'm sitting there, and next thing I know, I'm looking at the tree as it's starting to get daylight, and the light behind it. I'm like, I didn't scrape that tree and make shreds all over everything. So I start looking through my binoculars at 18 yards, and I told Nick, I said, you got to film this. That tree has been pummeled. and it's leaning, and I'm like, holy cow, that means someone's already hit this tree. So within 36 hours, I have not pulled I got so excited after I shot the deer, I forgot to pull the card. So that card is still sitting in there. I have no idea if he's on there. It could have been. I mean,
well, that'd be the benefit too of putting Buck Junkie on there. So Buck Junkie is our forehead salivary gland. Even when it was brand new, you already had a scent on there.
I was letting them know that
we open them too.
Yeah. So we'll scrape the tree.
We'll scrape the tree open.
Take a saw, take a knife, scrape it a little bit, because I don't know that there's a lot of visual to it. It's more for us to be able to get the scent,
keep the scent in it,
hold. You know.
Yeah, and I will also say I think a saw is better than a knife.
Maybe
because I did one with just my machete that I take for trail cameras, and then the other one with the saw. And the saw actually shredded it a little bit.
Yeah.
So and then it was all the what they have it when they get just little strands of stuff. And I feel like that works a lot better because it took the other ones a little bit longer to start hitting that one that I did with the machete. I don't know why.
Okay,
but I don't think it's that big of a difference.
Well, I think the other thing I've noticed though too is after just messing those with a saw and stuff, I was like, man, some of these deer on these rubs are spending a lot longer than I thought because it's not you just
5-6 minutes
and it's
10 minutes.
I have 15. I have 15 videos of one buck doing it. And I'm like, dude, they're gonna fill my card. Right. I need to change my settings on it or something because they're there all
See, I typically set mine on 1.5 minutes, meaning I film for 20 seconds and 1.5 minutes before it does another one, and I've had them on there for 5 to 7 videos, which means they had to have been there for roughly 14 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, because the 20 seconds that it filmed plus the 1.5 minutes, so 2 minutes, and so 7 of them would be 14 minutes. So they'll spend some time there. But I don't want someone to think, too, Warren brings up a good point in that you put in a tree and it doesn't work. They're not hitting it. And we had some this year that were not not working as well as some others were. One was working on one farm, not working on another. We weren't sure. We actually questioned, is our scent causing this, meaning our personal scent we're putting on it? I honestly felt like at one point it was simply the deer weren't there. I had picked the wrong area. But I wanted to test something, so I decided.
Or they weren't ready yet.
Or they weren't ready, or whatever, or they just weren't. They weren't coming to that spot.
You had deer coming up and smelling it and checking it out, but they
weren't rubbing it. Where I go to another farm and they were going crazy.
It, yeah.
So I came up with something I wanted to try. I pulled the 2 trees. I pulled one, took it over to one farm, pulled the other one, took it back to the other one. So now I'm putting a tree in there that has been hit by 10, 15 different bucks. And within 2-3 days of putting that in there, I had 10 bucks on the farm that I wasn't getting anyone rubbing it. And when I took that one over, it told me there was nothing wrong with that tree. There wasn't a scent problem or anything like that, because I took the one back to the area where all those bucks had been hitting it, and they just kept on. They just started right where they left off on a new tree. And actually, in both instances, I had new bucks show up. So there can be something to flip-flopping something like that. You can definitely...
You're introducing new bucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that definitely, it's not a curiosity thing. I do believe that it is a dominance thing.
Right.
Now that I think about it, that could be a tip. If you have a couple different rub trees on different deer completely, or different farms, switch them.
Absolutely,
because that's taking our scents are awesome. They're as realistic as you can get. You can't get the real thing with 15 different deer on it. Absolutely. With our scents. We can give you
in
a couple.
The area and everything else.
So take that, put it over there, and they're going to be like, "What the heck?"
So the only thing that I did do when you do it,
I would be curious to know what happened if you put that in the bedroom of a big deer you're hunting. I feel like
he just destroys it.
Yeah, Eli and I talked about doing that with Magnum. And we never had time to be able to get in there. Because that's one thing I did want to say before I forgot, is a mistake that I do felt as though that I made this year that was a very large mistake, is I went into what I called Magnum's bedroom, and I put this tree in really early, I don't know, August something, September something, because I knew I didn't want to be in there. And I put my cheater cam on it so that I wouldn't have to go in and intrude into his area. And I ended up having him in there several times. But then is what I realized, too, is that rub tree could help me kill him if I'd have put that on the edge of his bedroom or somewhere else where I could have gone and sat there. So then I was like, man, I made a mistake or I could have just added another one. But I don't want to give him too many options.
Right.
But after looking back, I was like, I should have put this somewhere that I can, because I can't get to it there. So I guess my point is, if you're going to have a deer that you're pretty sure he's going to show up in this spot, because I also didn't have any pictures of Magnum yet. I just was going off of, prior year history that he was going to be there. That if I'd have made sure that I could actually access it and get there to where I could hunt it, I think it would have helped me kill him even quicker, possibly. So
I was kind of confused that you weren't going to hunt the rub post specifically. When we were putting that in, I knew you were putting it in to get pictures, but I also thought that you were going to be able to hunt it.
Well, I didn't even think about it. That's what I'm saying. Then I was like, well, man, I need to go sit that rub tree, and then I realized I can't. The location I'd put it, I can't get into it. I can't get out of it without really possibly screwing this up. So, I wish I'd have moved it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the benefit of a rub tree is you find the tree you want to hunt, the access place you want to hunt, in relative area to where you want to be. You can't just stick it out in the middle of nowhere. They're not going to come to the Walmart parking lot and hit a rub tree because you put it there, but put it in a close area, and now you have been able to put something in there. Not only you get pictures, but you can also hunt it.
Right.
So here I have a question for you guys, and two, I have just a difference between when we're talking about scrapes and rubs. A rub, I will much more confidently sit over like a rub tree to hunt as opposed to a scrape. I do hunt scrapes, certain scrapes that I know are massive community scrapes, whether I've started them, found them, natural, whatever it is. But there's probably 10 times more scrapes throughout the woods than there is rubs. So when you find a rub that many deer are hitting, and they do find that to be a community rub, that your probability of deer that are going to be in the area that come to stop at that are going to be a lot better than, say, a scrape, especially when there may be 2 or 3 community scrapes within the area. So that's
supply and demand.
Yep. So that's one difference right there for me as to why I would sit a rub post or put a rub post in as opposed to scrapes. I'll put scrapes lots of places, but there's tons more scrapes as there is to rub posts. The question I have for you guys, so you were just talking about putting one in Magnum's bedroom with a bunch of other buck scents in it. Okay. I now have my target buck. We assumed he was a dominant deer. Just off trail camera pictures, he's a mature deer. We've known him for a couple of years. We didn't know. We've seen him enough now and seen him interact with other deer. We know he's a dominant deer. He's one of these deer that looks at another buck and they're like, and I'm not screwing with it. You know what I mean? And they walk away or whatever, and he runs the show. The rub post I have in his bedroom, where he's literally living, and he does not go very far as I can tell. He's the only deer that's been there. We've probably had 10 to 15 different bucks shred that tree, including my number 2 shooter. He has not touched it. Do you think that is? I've talked to Joey about it. I've racked my brain. I'm like, I don't know why he wouldn't, because clearly he's the dominant deer here.
Do you have pictures of him there, though?
I have pictures of him 30 yards away. I'm making a scrape that he made.
I'll bet he'll hit it.
I do think he'll hit it eventually, but I'm also wondering right now, it's been there for a week or 2 weeks now, and almost every deer I've ever seen in that bottom has hit it.
Have you had pictures of him since it's been in there?
Yeah.
There? Okay.
Yep. And I'm almost wondering if he's literally standing there like, go ahead. You guys can rub it. Do whatever. You guys all know that I'm the dominant one here. I don't need to do that.
I think that's what's great about the deer hunting and deer in general is that we can get a lot of things that we find that are, man, they move the best time like this. Most of them do. They grow like this, and most of them do.
You think you start to find a pattern.
But there's always that exception to the rule, and who knows what's going through his head on why he's not hitting that rub tree.
Yeah.
It's what keeps it fun. They have personality.
Absolutely.
That's what I tell every new hunter is like that there's very few things that you can apply to deer hunting as a whole. After that, almost everything is an opinion. I think almost everybody would tell you should hunt the wind. Almost everybody would tell you that the main time the deer are going to move is in the morning and in the evening. And then basically once you get past that, it's all opinions, and you can do it however you want.
It's all opinion. It's where you're hunting. It's all sorts of different things.
but
I do think that situation right there is a testament as to why not to hunt your trail camera specifically, and not to trust a trail camera as far I don't care. I'm not talking about like how well they work, but I'm talking about what's on it as far as knowing
you
your
could be
area.
Missing stuff very easily.
Right there, if I was sitting there, there's 2. If I was sitting there, I would see him because he just wouldn't be on the camera. But I have the rub post that I get who knows how many bucks on it. And then 30 yards away, and this is where I'm just trying to hone in on this one buck, I have another trail camera. And in the bottom, I have 3 cameras within 100 yards of each other, 2 in which don't get pictures of him, 1 in which does. So right there shows that when I have all these bucks on one trail camera, I'm not going to focus just on that one trail camera and think, oh, where's my deer?
That's a whole nother podcast. I mean, and
that right there is a really interesting. That just gave me a really interesting thought. So let's just say that you have a buck that however many times your buck has been on that camera in the last 2 weeks. How many times is it missing him? So that would mean how many times is he actually there? Mm-hmm. Right. So if it's missing him half the time, that means he was there.
Twice as much.
In my opinion, I think he's there almost every day. And I've gotten one picture of him in 2 weeks.
But how many times have we been hunting somewhere that we have a trail camera and we see someone, but we don't have a picture of them from that day?
That's my point. Is they're in there.
But and I'll use a scenario.
Some of us are very heavy on explaining that to others, that they need to trust themselves. But
no,
I won't say who.
I mean,
I won't say who.
I'll talk about right now. I got a 200-acre farm. I have 6 cameras on there. And yes. I have not seen this deer on a single trail camera, but we saw him. He's there.
And then what did I ask you?
You're setting him up. Be careful.
I don't care. He can
tread lightly.
I said he's not on.
He just talks.
You said he's going to be on camera. I said no, he's been there the whole time. And
I don't think he's been there the whole time.
I know you don't.
I would almost agree with him on that.
Then you said he's going to be on camera, and I said, okay, will you go pull those cards and let me know? And you went and pulled those cards, and he wasn't on there.
Nope.
So I don't know. He's probably been in the whole time.
So my point is,
you can't prove that, and neither can he.
Yeah,
so
there's no way of knowing.
It's a wild animal.
Still been there, I'll bet, and there's no.
You can't
yet.
prove that.
You don't know.
So he just packed up his bags and left for the week.
They got to go one day.
Well, I think he could be spending time in a cornfield right now that is fully on and fully not picked.
Or by any of the deer that Nick flings arrows
he did
at.
pack his bags one day and went, because I had that. I watched a deer just show up within a day. Obviously, they got to go somewhere at some point.
If he's so smart, I want to know where Nomad is. Tell me where he is. Where'd he go?
Use your powers to find that deer. He is a unit.
Well, it's kind of in his name.
I know.
Nomad. The deer goes everywhere.
Right.
Dang, that was
a real good answer. He's anywhere. So
that's how we named him.
So we should make sure we cover this, because too many people have have written in and asked about talking about the rub trees. We've talked about size. We've talked about the length of them. We've talked about how deep to put them in the ground. We've talked about making sure that we're using our scents on them, making sure they're in good. Don't be afraid to concrete them. You guys are like school children. We've talked about when to put them in, as far as Warren talked about, he put one in as early as August. September seems to be number one, but I threw one in the middle of October and it worked, or the end of October actually. We've talked about swapping them out. We've talked about
how much use do you think they'll be now? That's a good question. In the net from November, let's just say November 10th going forward, do you think that they're going to get useless?
No.
Really?
No, and the reason I don't is because if you look at trail cameras that are sitting on those, that buck, especially on like your food plots and things where they're coming to look for does, why not hit the tree? I'm here. It's just one more way of displaying dominance. I'll
have to pay more attention to that this year, because I feel like they'll start disregarding them here soon.
I would tell you that the one at the 80 last year, I had more pictures on it between November 1st and 15th than any other time, and new bucks. That's what really I think happens, is a new buck shows up to your area, and it's a way to let everyone know I'm here, and so they'll walk over to him. So you can have a way to might not kill a target buck, you're killing a buck you don't know, but he comes to it anyhow. So
I do think it's definitely convenient sometime too. Like
for sure,
if they're with a doe and they're fired up. Like, I do think that when he's to take his 80 in specification in that food plot, if he's running a doe around or something like that, and some other buck comes walking in that he's got to contend with, I would not be surprised at all to see him walk over and rub that post and say, "You better be careful, buddy."
Yep. Or the buck that comes in, and who knows how big he is, he walks in and hits it.
Right.
Because now one thing about them, once they're there for a while, they do become extremely visual. They can see them from a long ways away. You look at a couple of ours. I dropped these guys off. They're sitting in a grizzly blind the other day, and I'm 200 yards away, and I'm like, look at that tree just shining down there where they had
Right.
just worn it out.
We had that the other day when we were walking into one. You can
Right.
when the bark's
Blazed.
open, you can see it so easily. It
So
sticks out.
hopefully, I mean, do you guys feel like we've covered this extremely well? I do think that, and I'm just telling you, not only does it work, it's fun. We've learned so much about deer from the rub trees. We've learned a lot about deer from our scents. Obviously, we're probably doing some things with scents that a lot of you aren't. We're trying new scents so we can bring you some new stuff next year. And when I talk scents, we're talking glandular scents, because I truly believe that's why we went into this business of scents, is that there is a different communication level that we've entered other than urine.
Well,
But-
it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. It's scientifically proven.
right. Well,
So
and then we get a lot of questions. The LHD that we sell is urine based. However, it does have some glandular scents in it as well.
Which is
we-
dough and heat.
which is a doe and heat.
Yep.
You know, lonely hot doe is what LHD stands for. So, but anyhow, we wanted to do this because so many people had written in, and especially Ike. We wanted to answer those questions, but we just can't tell you guys how much we've appreciated because me and you talked about this after a podcast we did the other day. We learned so much from going over what we're doing, because now we're analyzing what we're doing. We're coming back and we're laying it all out. You say something, and I'm like, I hadn't thought of that. Or Easton says something, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't. Now, wait a minute. He said this, and he said, what if those two things made sense?
yeah, this podcast has honestly probably helped us grow just as much as helping other people grow.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for
So-
sure. You start thinking about, why am I doing that?
Yeah, because a lot of it isn't. A lot of times you're doing it out of instinct.
Your repetition, yeah. It's
or
like,
you've been
that's
doing
kind of
it.
what I'm supposed to do, yeah.
Yep. So
Mhm.
anyhow, I mean, it's sort. I would use the description of Nick and I today. You know, for me, picking a tree where I'm going to put a stand. Sometimes it's like a light bulb. It's like, that's the tree. This is where it needs to be. Other times you're standing there going, well, and I find that the times when I'm really having a hard time doesn't work. Not as good. It's the one that you go,
The
that's
forced ones.
yeah.
that
I
I
mean,
had,
it's just
yeah.
hard, you know. And then, but that one when in the
Yeah.
stand that we picked this morning, when I got up in the tree, I'm like, we're in the right spot. We did it. Yeah, I mean, and it will be one that I feel like I'll go back to. And same with the rub trees. When you drop a rub tree in, there's times you look back and you go, they're gonna hit this sucker, you know, and then they do. So, all right. Anything else to add?
Nope.
All right, guys. Well, we might be a little short on our podcast here through the month of November because just like you guys, we are trying to get back in the tree as quickly as possible. So some of us still have tags to fill. Yes, I filled a tag. Warren is tagged out. But I have a second tag that I get because I'm a landowner. Easton has been close. I mean, you guys are having a good time. So anyhow, we'll see what happens. There's some good deer out there. We're after them. We've got a couple camera guys that still need to be able to get in front of the camera that we're going to have them. So thank you guys for watching. Again, leave the reviews. We sure appreciate you guys. Send in your, obviously Ike proves that if you send in topics, we'll put them on the calendar and try and get in. And again, we're not experts at this. We're giving you our opinion. There may be some topics that we will bring in some people that we do feel like they are experts on. I know the one, and not leaning on it or anything, but we do want to get in Robbie Pruitt in here one day.
You'd be a good one. You'd
That
be
guy
knowledgeable.
knows food plots because a couple people have wrote in about farms, and Robbie would be an excellent one to have come in. So for all you guys out there, we sure appreciate you. From the Raised Hunting crew, good luck. Send your pictures in as well.
Yeah,
we
send
want to
us
see
your
photos of your deer. You know, whether you're using our scents or not doesn't matter.
Be
All right,
better
guys.
if you were, though.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Your hunt would be better. That's all we're saying.
It
All right.
helps them go into the rut earlier.
Have a good
That's-
one.
I'm just joking. Don't take that too seriously. We're out.